Howdy, friend. Spitz here, and this is Feed Bandit, the Texas First Outdoors podcast. If you have ever spent a long, quiet night sitting around a blazing cedar campfire out on a big Texas ranch, you know that the dark woods can play some pretty neat tricks on your eyes. When the wind whistles through the mesquite leaves and the shadows dance across the red dirt, your mind starts to wonder about the hidden mysteries that might be looking back at you from the deep brush. In our great state, we have a proud history of hunting big bucks, catching giant fish, and climbing rugged canyons. But we have an equally grand tradition of sitting under the stars and spinning some of the wildest, funniest, and most creative stories ever told by man. I am talking about the legend of the Jackalope and other classic Texas tall tales. These are the stories that were born in the old line cabins and around the cowboy chuck wagons, passed down from generation to generation with a wink and a smile. Today, we are going to dive deep into the world of Texas folklore. We will talk about the myth of the antlered rabbit, the legendary deeds of frontier giants, and the exact skills you need to become a master storyteller at your next outdoor camp. So pull up a chair. We have a lot of history to cover. The jackalope is without a doubt one of the most famous and beloved creatures in all of Western folklore. To look at one, you just have to picture a regular Texas jackrabbit, with its long hind legs, big hopping feet, and massive ears built for cooling down in the desert heat, but with one major change. Growing straight out of its forehead is a perfect sharp pair of branched deer antlers. According to the old-timers who used to tell these stories to greenhorn cowboys, the jackalope is an incredibly rare and smart animal that is almost impossible to catch because it can run up to 90 miles per hour. The old legends say that these horned rabbits are highly musical creatures that love to gather around cowboy camps at night. When the cowboys would start singing old trail songs by the fire, the jackalopes would hide in the darkness and sing along, using their amazing voices to mimic the high tenor or deep bass parts of the music. The only way you could ever catch one, according to the old stories, was to leave a small bowl of fresh milk out by the fence line, which would make the creature sleepy enough for a quick photograph. It is a goofy, light-hearted myth that has brought smiles to the faces of millions of kids and travelers, and you can still find old taxidermy mounts of these funny rabbits hanging on the wooden walls of country cafes and bait shops all across the state. Let's get into the technical deep dive on the art of the tall tale and how to pass down these classic campfire stories. My first big tip for you is to master the skill of the poker face when you are telling a legend to a young person or a visitor. A true Texas tall tale only works if you tell it with ultimate seriousness, acting like every single word is absolute gospel truth. If you start laughing or smiling during the middle of the story, you will give the joke away too soon. Speak slowly, use a calm, rugged voice, and pretend that your own grandfather witnessed the event with his own 2 eyes. My second tip is to weave real, authentic details into the fiction. If you are telling a story about a massive 10-foot-long rattlesnake or a giant catfish that lives at the bottom of the local river, use real names of local towns, specific creeks, and actual dates from history. By starting the story with true facts that everyone knows, you prime the listener's mind to believe the wild and crazy parts that come later in the yarn. My third tip is to understand the origin of these stories so you can appreciate their place in our history. Many tall tales were created by early pioneers as a way to poke fun at how massive, hot, and wild the Texas landscape truly was. When people moved here from the small green woods of the east, they were overwhelmed by the giant plains, the fierce thunderstorms, and the thorny brush. To make the land feel less scary, they invented giant heroes like Pecos Bill, a cowboy who was raised by coyotes, rode a wild mountain lion named Slide, used a live rattlesnake for a lasso, and once rode a giant Texas tornado like a bucking bronco. By making the stories bigger than life, the early settlers used humor as a shield to handle the hardships of the frontier. My fourth tip is to keep the interactive tradition alive by using physical props around the campfire. If you are talking about the lightning speed of the jackalope or the hidden movements of the brush country phantoms, point out into the dark woods at the exact moment the fire pops. Use the natural cracks of the burning wood and the hooting of the local owls to add drama and excitement to your performance. My fifth tip is to always keep the stories clean, friendly, and focused on the values of the outdoors. The best tall tales are the ones that celebrate the independence, the cleverness, and the ultimate toughness of the folks who live off the land. My sixth tip is to encourage the listeners to create their own exaggerated stories about their outdoor adventures. If your buddy catches a nice 2-pound bass or hits a good dove in the field, challenge him to tell the story at dinner as if the fish was the size of a whale or the bird was flying at the speed of sound. It builds an atmosphere of fun, laughter, and camaraderie that makes a camp trip truly unforgettable. Sharing these wild, tall tales is a premier Texas tradition because it reminds us that our outdoor heritage is about more than just the harvest or the score of the antlers. It is about the joy of the human connection. Long before there were televisions, computers, or mobile phones to occupy our minds, a family's entertainment came from the human voice and the power of imagination. Preserving the tradition means keeping these old frontier stories alive, sitting with our kids under the stars and showing them that laughter and creativity are just as important to a good woodsman as a sharp knife or a straight-shooting rifle. Protecting the legacy means ensuring that the small-town humor and the folklore of the Old West do not get lost in the busy noise of the modern world. When we tell the story of the singing jackalope or the wild rides of Pecos Bill, we are honoring the playful, independent spirit of the pioneers who looked at a harsh, dry desert and decided to fill it with magic and song. It builds a sense of pride and wonder in our history, and it connects us directly to the long line of Texans who sat around these same fires centuries ago. So, the next time you find yourself relaxing by the coals after a long day in the field, take a second to spin a good yarn for the folks around you. Keep the fire burning and never let the legend die. So what do you think of that? Are we right on target or did we totally miss the boat on that one? Email us at howdy@feedbandit.com and let us know either way. And don't forget to check us out at feedbandit.com and grab some gear to show off your Texas first outdoors pride. Preserve the tradition. Protect the legacy. And remember, always support your local feed store. If you're there for them, they'll be there for you when you need them the most out in the field. Stand tall, fellow Texans. We'll talk soon.